I had the pleasure of living at Mr. Cordo's house in the Toloso Midway area of Corpus Christi. I'm going to guess it was somewhere around 1983. I was living with Mr. Cordo's family for reasons I'm not going into. Mr. Cordo delivered the newspaper in the area. He worked 7 days a week. When he wasn't delivering papers, he was doing the bookkeeping, processing little monthly subscription payment checks at around $7 from each customer of the Corpus Christi Times. If somebody didn't pay Mr. Cordo, he remembered exactly which house it was. They simply didn't get a paper until they caught up. The choice was theirs. My point is, Mr. Cordo worked 7 days a week for approximately 30 years. I could be off by a year or two, maybe a hurricane interrupted things once or twice, but for roughly 3 decades he delivered newspapers every single day. Rain, sun, sleet, or snow, the paper made it to your house. Saturday night was the Sunday paper went out, and that was a different animal. Mr. Cordo could normally handle the route by himself, but Sunday paper required 2 trucks and 2 people. One of Mr. Cordo's descendants and I would help him. There were 2 jobs, stacking and rolling, as we called it. Stacking was the easy job. You drove the truck carrying papers for H-E-B and convenience stores around the area. Rolling was the harder job. You rolled the newspapers, put them into plastic bags, and kept working while Mr. Cordo threw papers into yards as the night rolled on. Like a lot of teenagers in the early 1980s, we occasionally drank beer. It was illegal, of course, but it wasn't exactly unusual back then. I remember one night I'd had a little too much to drink. The smell of fresh newspaper ink didn't help. I told Mr. Cordo I wasn't feeling very good. He simply pulled the truck over. I got out, threw up, got back in, and we finished the route. We picked up the papers at the Corpus Christi Times loading docks. Several carriers there would be waiting for their routes. There was also a mentally challenged man who was frequently hanging around the docks. He worked for some of the carriers sometimes. Some of the other carriers thought it was funny to tease him. Eventually, Mr. Cordo stood up. He wasn't a big man, but he looked at them and said simply, "All right, that's enough." Everybody backed off because everybody respected Mr. Cordo. So as I like to say, the bullies went back to what they were doing. That's right. I said bullies because that's exactly what they were. As a rebellious teenager, I didn't have much respect for people in authority. But I remember that moment. That was the moment I understood what it felt like to genuinely respect someone. Mr. Cordo wasn't famous, he wasn't wealthy. He was simply a man who showed up every single day and did his job. After approximately 30 years of delivering newspapers, the Corpus Christi Times decided to divide Mr. Cordo's route into several smaller routes, presumably for business reasons. When a man's livelihood has been built over 30 years of faithfully doing the same job and doing it well, that kind of decision can change his life forever. This happened sometime between 1987 and 1990. I don't remember the exact year. I was later told by Mr. Cordo's son that losing the route affected him very deeply. The older I get, the more this story bothers me. You could say it still pisses me off. I think men should be allowed to get pissed off at once in a while without getting arrested by the feelings police. So this is what I want to say to the Corpus Christi Caller-Times. In my opinion, your decision took away the livelihood of one of the hardest working men I've ever known. A man who delivered your journalism 7 days a week for nearly 30 years without complaint. I'm not looking for compensation or revenge. Mr. Cordo's descendants are doing very well and don't need anything from anyone. But maybe someday a real journalist will come across this story and decide it's worth writing about. The man who spent roughly 30 years delivering the news instead of making it. Because if journalism is about telling the stories of people who matter, then Mr. Cordo's story deserves to be told. 7 days a week, approximately 30 years. This is one of the stories of my life.